All right. The Deuce. Episode 22. Christian Joseph. Badass Records. What is going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
So Badass Records.
Yeah. Badass Records Podcast. The BRP.
Cool name.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's such a cool name that I have my lone non-digital branding piece over there on the table, which is the it's got electrical tape, and it's like a Lucky Charms cereal box.
Looks professional,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Man, you like I mentioned, I mean, I knew about the hair because of the ribbon cutting, but I did not know about the ink. How much ink did you have the last time I saw you? You've always had one or two pieces, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't I don't keep track of it by date, but
No, I know, but you've not had a sleeve your whole life.
That's true.
Okay. What bring me up to speed. Where are these? Because you were the proverbial I don't want to say tailored suit, but nice suit, briefcase toting,
corporate guy,
fancy card.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did the ink inspiration?
So I still do the buttoned up version from time to time. You remember that commercial in I think it was the early 2000s. It was Hard Rock Cafe, and they'd show like guys playing with their kids or whatever, and then the sleeve would creep up, and there'd be a tattoo, and at the bottom of the commercial it says, "We know who you are."
No,
right?
Not at all.
You don't remember that? Huh? And there's one where he had like tattoo on his ankle or something. It was a skull, and it was kind of saying like you could still have this family life, you could still have this buttoned up life, but underneath all that, we know who you really are. So my point in saying that this is who I really am.
Okay.
So I'm a hard rocker, motorcycle riding, tattoo loving.
You have one bike, right?
I have one bike.
And what is it?
That's a 2020 Deluxe, Softail Deluxe.
Is it throaty? Is it loud?
Oh, yeah. It's got some right
annoying loud.
It depends on what you mean by annoying.
I mean, when one of those goes by, your natural reaction is to be like, really? Loud, like that it's almost like you want to cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's louder than a Fish concert, I would say.
I doubt it, but
but yeah, it's got pipes on it.
Okay,
and so there's some school of thoughts on that, right? Like there's a bumper sticker T-shirt. It's loud pipes save lives. Like it's very recognizable that there is a motorcycle on the street because you hear it and everybody looks around to see where it's going.
For sure. Okay.
So that's one piece to it. And then the other piece to it is, how big's your dick?
I know.
That kind of thing.
Well,
can I say that on
this?
Yeah,
you can.
Oh,
I thought maybe you would warm up the airwaves for a few seconds longer before you went there. But
like I said, this is who I am.
So. It's funny. I was sitting at Broadway Cafe Tuesday with my boss talking about just work stuff, and for some reason the conversation went this direction where I was reminded that I moved back to KC in March of 2000 and was in Westport most of my waking hours for 8 years straight, and almost all of those under the same roof, and the front of the house is, very, very clear rule back then was no ink, no piercings. And they were able to put together a large front of the house staff that would be subjected to lineups and sent away if you didn't have your wine key or if you were wrinkled or whatever for a good while. And now it's like nobody's even going to give you a look if you don't have a little bit of visible ink and a septum piercing or whatever.
Yeah, I don't get the septum piercing.
Yeah,
but I'm a '90s guy, so I think sleeves are cool. But
so what are some of your inspirational? What do you got there?
So I think 90% of my tattoos are memorial tattoos
to those that are
dead.
Okay.
Yeah. So this, my my right arm is I've got a sleeve on my right arm. My left arm I just have a biceps tattoo, but on my left arm I've got a tiger.
Okay.
This is what my nickname was growing up from my grandfather. Was Tiger.
Okay.
I've got a heart here, and it says Nan on it, Nan. And it's kind of a like the heart that would say mom on it.
Okay.
But Nan was my grandmother.
Okay.
And she raised me, and so that's she's deceased. The skull on my inner forearm here with a crown. This is my grandfather. He was kind of the
Nan's husband.
Okay. Yeah. He was obviously the patriarch of our family.
Sure.
And he was the king of his realm here.
Yeah.
So that's him.
Are these dad's side or mom's side?
These are mom's side.
Okay.
The skull cowboy, that's my dad.
Okay.
He's also deceased.
Oh, really? Okay.
He was born in Italy, but he's very much a rancher. He was a rancher till he died, and died from an accident. The 13 here is not what most people think it is. This probably the one that I think brings the most attention.
Okay. It stands apart.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
the rest of them kind of bleed into one another.
Yeah, number 13, right in the inner bend of the elbow. But it also is reminiscent of an MS-13 tattoo, which is interesting because I've had a lot of Hispanics come up to me and point this out.
What's MS-13?
MS-13 is a very violent Hispanic gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what the MS?
No.
Something Sureño, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is it for you?
My best friend that ended up committing suicide 7 years ago. His birthday's the 13th.
Okay.
And it's funny because I always forgot his birthday. I always called him on the 12th. For whatever reason, growing up, I knew this kid for 35 years. Growing up, it was always July 12th. But his birthday is July 13th.
Wow.
And so I don't forget his birthday.
Yeah.
I don't forget his birthday anymore. Pine trees on the inner bicep here. This was the scenery of where he killed himself. Was up in the mountains.
Okay.
Very, very piney area. Very noticeable pine trees.
Sure.
Then I got a pinup girl.
Oh, you do? How long's she been around?
She's been on there a while.
Is she fictitious, or is she based on somebody, or?
She, Olivier used to do these drawings for Playboy. And Olivia? Is it Olivia or Olivier?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's the artist.
Okay.
And I'm probably wrong. I mean, it's either Olivier or Olivia.
Okay.
And he does these really great pinup girls, and I always liked him. I used to sneak my grandfather's Playboys growing up, and he would have these Sailor Jerry-esque type of drawings of these pinup girls. And
is that solely a reference to the rum, Sailor Jerry?
No, Sailor Jerry's a tattoo artist.
And the rum's probably named after the
Correct.
tattoo. Okay.
Yeah.
Because their logo, it looks tattooy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was a very famous tattooist. Is that even a word?
It is now.
It is now. He was a very famous tattoo artist. I would say in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, Sailor Jerry.
Okay.
So at any rate, I liked that kind of, I don't know, that sailor themed pinup girl, and so I chose one of his drawings on a whim, I guess.
Okay.
And I went and got this done.
Has the same person done all of your ink?
No, not all of it, but the majority of it.
And so recently?
Fairly recently, I think.
Like if you had,
you haven't seen me in short sleeves. I don't think you've really ever seen me in short sleeves.
Probably not.
Yeah. So
I mean, you did. I do remember. Not very shortly after what we were talking about before we started rolling, I was at Oak Street Plate one day, and you came. I'm pretty sure you came in click-clacking with a bike.
Oh yeah, with a mountain bike,
and you know the click because of the shoes.
Yeah, the shoes.
And I probably saw you might have been in shorts and a t-shirt or bike riding clothes then, and that's probably it.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you had me over for the Super Bowl, you were probably
My Brooks Brothers.
This isn't starched as I like it.
Is this Italian silk?
One less set of Gucci shoes for Christmas for you, young man.
And then, I think my best friend, he killed himself 7 years ago.
Okay.
So from then until about 2 years ago, this sleeve was completed. This is another memorial tattoo. This is a candy skull, and this was actually a cover-up. I had a candy skull, like
it looks like the Dia de los Muertos type.
Yeah, which another name for it is candy skull.
Okay.
But it says Ringo on the top. Yeah, it says Ringo on the top, and that was his nickname.
Okay.
His name was Johnny.
Okay.
So we were all Tombstone fans, so we nicknamed him Ringo.
Oh, you Huckleberry. Is that the right movie?
It is.
Okay.
And it's I'm Your Huckleberry.
I'm Your Huckleberry.
My girlfriend and I had to research this last night because it's funny that this is even coming up. We had to research because she said, "What does that even mean?" And I think I said, I think it means I'm the man for the job. And she said, "I think it means I'll be your sidekick."
I thought it meant I'm interested in being your lover. Which one is it?
So we researched this.
Okay.
And
Don't use the R word, by the way, please.
Okay.
Because you're doing like the rest of us are doing and Googling. I would
That's
suspect
it. That is research nowadays. What do you think? I went and got the Encyclopedia Britannica and looked it up? No, I got on Google. I closed OnlyFans and I went to Google.
Paused OnlyFans.
I paused. Correct. I paused OnlyFans. Just getting ready to go VIP for a few $100. And I ended up looking this up on Google, and it means I'm the man for the job.
Damn it. Okay. All
and Mark Twain adopted that because it was a very fashionable saying in the late 1800s for people when they asked a question for somebody like, well, okay, well, I'm your Huckleberry. Like that was hey, I'm the guy. Pick me.
Corny begat cool.
Yeah, corny begat cool. And here we are today. Doc Holliday revived that, and now it's like.
Have you seen Top Gun Maverick yet?
Yes, I have.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
That's so fucking good.
I
remembered researching a handful of months ago. Maybe movie related. I'm not sure why, but looking up Val Kilmer and being like, oh fuck, like maybe somebody told me something was going on with him.
Have you not seen Val? You've not seen the movie Val? His documentary?
No.
Oh, you're behind, bro.
Oh, good stuff.
It's yeah. So apparently Val Kilmer has been documenting his life since the 80s on video.
No way.
Yeah. And he's put together a documentary of his life leading up to where he is now and the health problems that he's having.
Throat cancer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's not going away.
It's not good. But it's called Val, and I believe it's on Prime.
Okay.
I believe.
Did you like what they did with ICE?
So if you watch Val,
okay,
you will appreciate even more what they did with him. And yeah, I think it was perfect.
I think a lot of what they did in there was perfect.
That was probably the best sequel I've ever seen.
I mean, it's got to be. I believe it eventually will be in the conversation for, top 3, top 5, top whatever best sequels ever.
Oh, I think so. And they effectively recreated the entire first movie, plot line, and everything.
Yeah, goosebumps.
And got away with it. I mean, how many movies on the second go around can do exactly what they did in the first go around, but just do it better?
But like he said in his little pre-film cameo, decades in the making. I was like,
yeah,
decades.
Well, you know what that was. You know what that was.
What?
So the actors were actually trained to go up in those airplanes.
Hence, these are real MiGs and these are real Gs.
Those were real Gs. You could see it on their face. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Right.
Whoever's listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could see it in their face. There's a time when one of the actors looks like he's passing out.
And
right?
he really is.
He really is.
Oh shit. Well, I gotta say, man, you get the opening paragraph, and then you cut to him in his little hangar, and you almost immediately get jacket, and then the cover comes off the bike, and then you get Danger Zone. I was like, fucking let's go! And none of it, lots of people across the most recent Star Wars movies, they're like, oh, it's the same book. A lot of criticism. And it's occasional. I'm a huge Star Wars geek, so I'm just excited there's a new Star Wars. I don't get upset about that.
Sure.
But I see it.
Yeah.
I see, it's always a fucking thing that's huge and kills planets, and we got to find out the way to blow it up,
Right.
And then somebody's relative, but zero fucks given for this. It was so, when it was go time for the real deal, my daughter was in my lap and my son was clutching my arm, and they were both like, I'm so scared. I was like, I am too. I don't know why you think I'm a source of comfort. I'm fucking terrified. But my son, my daughter's very much, she's emotional, she's in her head, and he's just, what's next? That's how he operates. He can have 3 days at an amusement park, followed by 2 sleepovers and a Chiefs game, and then the Chiefs game. Then what are we doing now? It's always how he's been. But in the drive, 20 minutes it took for me to get them to their moms, he probably said 5 times, "That was so good." I was like, "It really was, man." And everybody, what's his name? The actor that played the mean. Superior ranking officer that kind of took over. He's a St. Louis heartthrob. You know what I'm talking about. He takes over. He's like, I'll be running it now.
Oh, John Hamm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I wanted to fucking strangle that guy.
But he turned out to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good characters. Okay, let's talk about this. Tom Cruise is 56 years old.
And still doing how much of his own stunts?
I think the majority. I don't know what percentage, but the majority.
I think it's a lot.
And then we can talk about Jennifer Connelly's 51.
I was like, who is this? I am in love.
I
absolutely love.
Do you remember the first movie she was made an appearance in?
No.
It's called Career Opportunities.
I remember that
And
title.
it's at a shopping store. Or it's at a grocery store, and I believe they get trapped in there overnight.
Okay.
And that's when you kind of first meet this doe-eyed Jennifer Connelly, and everybody's like, oh my God. And then she goes from this to Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, she was in that?
She was in that with Jared Leto. I'd tell you, probably my top 5 of all time, major babes. Jennifer Connelly.
I just literally had nothing.
Just to see her at 51 years old. I have goosebumps now. You have goosebumps talking about.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps now. Jennifer Connelly blew me away.
The out the window and then
and
just don't break her heart this time. I was like, oh my God.
It's great.
It's really great.
It's great.
Really
now,
great.
did you catch in the original Top Gun, there is a reference to Penny, that character?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No.
Okay.
No. But there's a reference to Penny.
What scene is it in?
Goose and his wife are talking to Maverick and saying something along the lines of, just go, man, forget about Penny or whatever. There's this reference to a girl that broke his heart or he broke her heart, and they don't go into it. Wow. But to have that come full circle was pretty cool.
So Nan and what'd you call your grandfather?
I called him Grandpa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is mom's side.
Mom's side. Yeah.
Okay. So were you born and raised here?
No. Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. Okay.
Lake City.
So it always works its way back to Utah somehow.
Yeah.
So your parents met in Utah?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did they meet?
Yeah, I don't know. They were never married. They were so my mother was born in England in Birmingham, West Midlands, in a town called Wolverhampton.
Okay.
And they came to the United States. My mom was, I think, 10 years old when they came to the United States. My father was born in Italy, in a near Rome, in a town called Frosinone.
Okay.
They came to Italy when he was younger than my mother. I think it was only 2 or 3 years old. And they immigrated to New York, to upstate New York, My dad joined the Marines, which led him to California. Did his 4 years in the Marines. I think he was 23 or 24 when he got out, and decided he was going to drive across country, and ended up in Utah.
Okay.
And then ended up staying there for a time, meeting my mom, most likely at a bar, I guess, and they hit it off and hooked up, and they had a pretty strong relationship until she got pregnant. There was a 10-year age difference. So my dad being 10 years younger than my mom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So she gets pregnant, and then did he disappear, or?
Yeah, for lack of detail,
Sure.
he just kind of said, it's a little much. What, you're having twins? I'm a twin.
No,
So-
no, you are?
Yeah, I have a twin sister. Yeah.
What's her name?
April,
Where is she?
Hawaii.
Do you guys? Okay.
We do not communicate.
So it's a bit much, and then is he around initially, or?
Well, he's around long enough for them to go to court. They go to court, and back in this is 75. 75, they're having a hard time.
Am I 1 year older than you? Is that?
I'm 47. Yeah, I'm 47.
Have you had your birthday already?
Yeah.
Okay.
April.
So yeah, six months.
Yeah.
But no, because I'll be 48 in December.
Yeah.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, so they went to court, and I think those times they really didn't side with the woman too often. I don't think. I mean, I think that you know.
This is a paternity case?
Yeah, a paternity case, and the technology's not there for
Yeah.
the DNA testing and all that, and the case isn't going well. My grandfather, he's a very was a very take charge kind of guy, and he said, "We're not going to proceed with this anymore. We'll take the kids." And so we all lived in a huge farmhouse. My grandparents, my sister and I, and my mom.
Eastern Utah?
No, in Salt Lake City. There was a farmhouse.
Salt Lake City is sort of central north, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's by the Great Salt Lake.
Right.
Not too far from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're coming across 70 on Colorado, you're in Utah, you go like kind of Arches-ish and then Park City, and then eventually Salt Lake City, right?
Yeah, so you don't go through any arches, but if you're
No, but like Arches National Park and all
which
that
is in Utah. That's southern Utah though.
but on the eastern side.
Yeah, southeast.
Okay.
So I-70 goes right through. I think it's called Price, but yeah, I think you're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not going to pursue this anymore, and then Dad is just whatever doing his own
Yeah,
life.
and as a kid, you're spared from all of the details, and as it should be. And I think come to find out later on in life, when my dad died, is that he didn't necessarily want to be kept away. He just felt like he wasn't welcome, and so ended up,
How long has he been gone?
He died in 2012,
Okay.
August 1st.
And you, by that point, you did have a relationship with him?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
I
Okay.
mean, adult male relationships, especially paternal relationships, they're hard to start when you're an adult.
When was there an initial connection made?
My sister tracked him down when we were 16.
Okay. And are you guys still living with Nan and Granddad and Mom?
Yeah.
At 16? Okay.
Yeah. And I refused to meet him until I was about 19.
Okay.
I was a teenager. I had a
What
trip-
changed then?
He had a motorcycle for me.
Oh, shit.
And my mom.
That is so much more than ice cream.
My mom loved that one. That was.
Oh, I bet.
Oh yeah.
You're coming around again, or for the first time.
Bringing him a
and-
motorcycle.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, all right. So you started something, and it took whatever shape it took until he was not around anymore.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, is your mom still alive?
Yeah.
And are you guys?
She lives with me. It's a nightmare.
No.
Yeah.
Since when?
Well, since February.
Okay.
So she's obviously retired. She sold our family home in Utah in February of 2022. Was planning to take an extended vacation in Kansas City for 2 months before she relocated to Hawaii for the rest of her retirement. Plans fell through. The good news, is she's moving into her own apartment next week. So
plans fell through. Like did somebody like agree to a thing and then they changed their mind, or was it like just logistically organic? It kind of fell through. Or?
I think the cost was shocking. I think you had this idea in your mind of what you can do with a sum of money,
meaning the sale of the Utah home,
of the house, but not understanding that's finite. I think I introduced her to my financial advisor, and plans quickly changed. So she's here,
but
which is good.
Was she gonna connect with your sister? And
she was, yeah.
And your sister doesn't have any means of helping her see that through, or no interest, or
we all have that person in our family that just brings everything down.
So is that a roundabout way of saying you guys don't communicate because of some stuff on her end?
My sister's a unique person.
Okay. Interesting.
And,
so you said, I think you said when you pointed to Nan that she raised you. Is that because mom was working, or?
Well, twins, and that's tough on a single mom. And I think that my grandparents would help out by taking the boy with them and kind of doing the maternal things with bottle feeding and all the things that a mom would do to a baby to help out, and it just became a habit, I guess.
Why taking the boy?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
I think that may have
been kind
been
of like some Luke and Leia shit.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Just so you know, we can reference Star Wars all day. I'm a huge Star Wars fan too.
Okay, well,
so we can do that.
we can
get there.
Like to get all of the things about myself that I might declare nerdy or whatever out on the shelf, so that you have easy targets in case you change into your old self and want to.
Yeah. You never know. You never know when that guy will come out.
I know. He might be under the hat there.
He could be.
So, did you guys both graduate high school in Utah? And okay.
Yeah. We graduated high school in 1993. She graduated a little bit earlier than I did. I loved high school. I didn't like the work, but I loved being there.
Sure.
I loved being there.
Did mom or Nan or granddad, was anybody playing music in the house when you guys were little, or?
So my mom would play a lot of Tom Jones.
Okay.
Man. Yeah.
I think my mom's mom was like a huge, like maybe legitimately in a Tom Jones fan club.
Whatever.
Wasn't he like
my mom's almost 80.
Kind of handsome?
Oh yeah.
And
dashing guy.
And like kind of just, hey, like whatever he did.
Almost loungy, but not quite. But it was
different than what was totally offered before, right?
Yeah,
or concurrently.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like he's like Robert Goulet meets Jim Morrison, kind of.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Kind of like this sexy swagger.
Yeah.
Kind of, but still kind of on this
sharp
loungy.
dresser.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Daughter of Darkness. If you ever get a chance to listen to one Tom Jones song, check out Daughter of Darkness. That song ran through my mind as a kid. And I don't know if it was just because of the lyrics or because it was about a daughter or something struck a chord as a kid for me listening to Daughter of Darkness.
Okay.
But and then the Standby, we had a lot of Doors growing up. Some Led Zeppelin. My mom wasn't real into rock. She was more into the kind of easy listening type of stuff. I think the Byrds played a lot.
Cool.
Tommy James and the Shandells.
Yeah.
Crimson and Clover. I remember that song really well. What a cool song that is. That's a cool song.
Well, also Tommy James and the Shandells, like that's high up there on like best band name.
Oh yeah.
Ever. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It just has always flowed off anyway.
So those things were pretty regular. My mother dated an Oak Ridge boy for a while. which is interesting.
My dad was like, talk about fangirls and fanboys. So Friday, July 8th, my dad would have been 75. And for like right when he sort of hit his stride in the 80s, he was selling china. Like
Corningware?
What you would register for if you're going to get married,
Sure.
And killing it. And so he had 2 like vans in a row back to back, and they were like really nice, fold out beds and captain's chairs in the middle and stained glass windows. So anyway, Thursday night I went out with some of my 2 of my sisters and my stepmom, and we had burgers, and then my sister got home and watched. He used to make slides, like of pictures. The carousel
Sure.
boxes and boxes. And at some point, my sister that's in Chicago and her husband, I think, took it upon themselves to take some highlights from the slides and have a DVD made. And so my sister went home and was watching it and recorded it with her phone and sent it to me. And
so you had slides recorded to a DVD, then recorded on a phone.
Yeah. And just there's a couple of shots of him in front of the first van, and I always remember like his biggest bragging right about that was that he once gave the Oak Ridge Boys a ride. I don't know from where to where, but it's always like, cool story, man.
Yeah.
You need to like flesh that out and be like, they were abandoned on the dirt on their teeth and their guitars on their. Just gave the Oak Ridge, but yeah, we know. God, why do you keep saying that?
So yeah, she dated this Oak Ridge boy, Richard. I don't know his last name. He was the guy. He was the baritone.
Okay.
So that song Elvira.
Yeah.
Where they go giddy up.
No.
Yeah. He was the one that did that.
Okay.
And
cool.
So she dated Richard, and this is what she said. I was a kid. I didn't see them out together.
Right.
I wasn't like, is that my new dad? It was never like that. It was never like that. Yeah. But so we listened to a lot of Oak Ridge Boys. My grandparents being older, World War II age, they were listening to more big band stuff and even some Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias and those kinds of things. So.
To all the girls I love.
We had an RV with an 8-track, and I think that's the only song that worked.
Right.
Or On the Road Again, and we thought that was cool because we were driving. Every time we'd get in the RV, we had this sleeper RV, like a legitimate, Winnebago.
Yeah.
And we'd go to Yellowstone, or we'd go to Southern Utah, or we'd go to these places. And every time we'd pull out of the driveway, my grandpa would put On the Road Again, and just as kids, we loved that.
So this trip I just took to Colorado with the kids, I had episode 1, actually, a college buddy from Durango flew in with his kids, stayed the weekend, and all 6 of us went to the Casey Musgraves show at Sprint Center, right? Mm-hmm. And so we kind of tried to like squeeze in some Casey Musgraves because we weren't really in the know. But we've since listened to quite a bit, and the current album that we're listening to was just kind of whatever 12th or 13th of 14 tracks as we're headed to the airport to fly to Colorado. And there's a fucking track with Willie Nelson. And I was like, God damn, I didn't know she wrote it. And my kids are like, who's Willie Nelson? And I'm like,
ooh.
Well, and
good job, Dad.
It's not. I'm not a big fan. I love him, but I don't own any of his stuff. I've never.
Have you seen him live?
No.
I mean, he's been here a couple times.
I think maybe Spirit Fest in the 80s. I think maybe I might have caught him once. But anyway, so I put that on, and they loved it. And then we flew to Colorado, got a rental car. We went Denver, Durango, back to Denver, Fort Collins, Estes, Fort Collins, back to a lot of miles. And every time we would pack up our things and get in the car, I would play that. And at one point, my son's like, what else? And I was like, well, there is the duet with Enrique or Julio Iglesias, whatever. And I put it on, and I was like, this fucking thing drags out, like, verse after verse. Like, all right, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, that thing, I mean, 82, 81, somewhere around there, I heard it a lot.
Yeah. Beck opened for him at Starlight about I want to say about
Willie?
I want to say about 5 or 6 years.
I remember
ago.
that. I didn't go.
It was good.
I bet.
It was good.
I mean,
and they came out and did a song together, and
cool.
It was cool. It was
cool. I've whatever, Beck's got like 10, 11, 12 records, and I have them all in my phone. I've never just sat down and I did for the record that came out in like 03, 04, and it had that cell phones gone, lost in, one by one, I'll knock it. That I know that record, but the rest of it I don't know that well, but I have it all, and typically I'm just shuffling, right? And nope, if I don't feel like it. Every time a Beck song comes on that I've not really listened to before, I'm like, fuck, this is good too.
Yeah.
Fuck, this is good too. Like, he's
great.
Really gifted.
There's so many good artists. I'm doing the same thing with Metallica right now. I went back, re-listening to all albums, like start to finish.
Okay.
Deftones, same thing. They're on my top list. Deftones. It's just you forget kind of like what's so great about these bands.
Yeah.
And
I found my solution, and I know this is going to make you laugh, but it's not what it's going to sound like. So there is, I remember you had that like antique looking phonograph thing when you're putting together Season and Square, and you were just fucking fanboying out about Spotify and how great it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, dude. Okay. Anyway.
I don't even use it anymore.
So, but there's a playlist on there that the creative manager for Fish put together, and it's all of their pre-first set and intermission and walkout, shows over house music from 2009 to current.
Wow.
So it's got 10,500 albums, and it's I don't even remember the other number that is like how long it takes to play is also huge. And that is literally it's playing right now in my kitchen. That's all I listen to, because I've up to date I'm 100 plus. Like, who the fuck is this? And I'll find it, add it, and then when I'm out driving around, it's shuffle. But it is so incredible. And I don't know why we started talking about that, but
it's fun to do that kind of stuff.
Because you were like doing the deep dive Metallica, blah blah blah, and hence why they were on the brain when you saw the Liquid Death.
Yeah, they've been on the brain. Honestly, are you a Stranger Things fan?
I did season 1, and I'm not really sit down and watch TV. I need to be doing something, so I usually just like watch podcasts and shit on my phone while I fold laundry or whatever.
It's interesting for a Star Wars guy, because I think Stranger Things and Star Wars are really similar.
Well, so I did season 1, and then I started I think I got through it and then started season 2 and did 1 or 2, and I was like, I don't know that I need to be doing this right now.
It's worth it.
Well, everybody's been freaking out about season 4.
I'd say that they're alike. I say they're alike because the villain is always there.
Okay.
And it's like similar to Star Wars. Like Star Wars it's always about the Empire. It's always about the planet destroyer, but it's not about that. It's about the characters and what they do within those stories. Star Wars is interesting because it could almost be this infinite amount of stories and parallel, stories happening during the same period of time, which they've started to do a little bit of that.
Did you do Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Obi-Wan?
Yeah. I haven't finished Obi-Wan yet.
I haven't started because we're only like 4 or 5 episodes into Boba Fett.
Obi-Wan's good, man.
I can't wait. It's just a matter of getting
a little slow start.
Yeah.
But
well, that's okay.
Yeah, it's good. But Stranger Things, so the reason I bring that up is season 4 is 1986. What they've done is they've taken this Kate Bush song from 1986,
I've
Running
seen
Up the Hill.
Memes, yeah.
I knew this song in the 80s. I knew Kate Bush.
Well, that's what the meme says.
Yeah, she had a song with Peter Gabriel that was huge, and I heard that song and I was like, wait a minute, they're bringing Kate Bush back. So it's huge. So Metallica makes an appearance in
Stranger Things.
Yeah, not a cameo, but their music.
Sure.
And in such a way, it's fucking awesome.
Okay.
Let's just say that. And so that reignited. Like I was a huge Metallica fan growing up. I went to Master of Puppets tour. I went to Justice for All tour. I went to the Black Album tour. I was a huge Metallica fan, and then in the mid '90s, when everything started to go away from hard rock, I kind of lost my way a little bit. But you got to watch Stranger Things, man.
Okay.
Get on board.
You know what I did just sit down and watch, like all in one setting, was The Bear.
I've heard it's real good, and I've heard from a lot of people that I would like it.
Those were going to be the next words out of my mouth. I mean, there's so much that you can and will for sure relate to.
Interesting.
And it's I don't know if they're going to make a second season, but it was a very fat, and it was only 8, I think, episodes. But really good stuff. Good stuff. There is a character in that. There's a couple, especially early, but one in particular where I literally Googled, why are they not firing this guy? I was like, I don't know if I can continue to watch. It's so just like, holy fuck, man, my anxiety just from this, it's just taking over everything. Like you got to give it a watch. But was there, so since we're so close to the same age, really 7th grade was kind of, when I first had real money that I earned, cutting grass, babysit, whatever, and now I'm buying music. I've gone from like listening to whatever my mom's playing or whatever's on in the house to like having a stereo, a little thing in my room that I'm, KY 102 or the Fox or whatever. And now I'm beginning. So was there, what was the first leap or the first step away from what's being played to stuff that you sought out and acquired on your own music wise?
So I through early on when I started, I'd say around 14, I was into Whitesnake.
Nice.
David Coverdale, still probably best voice in rock and roll. I mean, his stint at Deep Purple was awesome.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he was lead singer of Deep Purple for a while.
What, Richie Blackmore was the guitar player, and the original lead man was, what was his name? The guy who sang. I mean, he sang "Highway Star" and "Smoke on the Water" and all that shit, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna look up a song because I want you to listen to David Coverdale and these lyrics in this Deep Purple song because it is insane. He just has this range where, he can sound like this operatic tenor.
Yeah, I mean, Take Still of the Night.
Yeah.
He goes all over the place in that.
So he leaves Deep Purple in the 70s and starts Whitesnake in the early 80s. Him and
Steve Vai? No,
Steve Vai was a guest guitarist for Whitesnake. He wasn't the regular guitarist. Steve Vai did play at a show that I did get to see Steve Vai play, and that concert. That was one of my first concerts ever, and that was like, I knew that like rock was like, I'm landing on rock no matter what.
I told you one time in your not Oak, but your 63rd office one time to play For the Love of God off of Steve Vai's Passion and Warfare album because we kind of somehow went down this road.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet.
I know. You were like, I will.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
So I first got into Whitesnake, and then I've kind of got an obsessive personality. Kind of do it all or nothing.
Is this a new thing?
So I naturally went out and bought all Whitesnake's tapes, went to all their concerts, spent all my paychecks on albums from Whitesnake, and
solid investment.
And I think so. I mean, you mentioned Whitesnake today, and most people have no idea what you're talking about. I mean,
it's crazy.
Which is crazy because they're so influential on
who's playing the bow solo in that?
Oh God, that's Steve Vai and their other guitarist is Kit something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they brought out the bows in Still of the Night, and that was like groundbreaking shit, man.
Everybody shut the fuck up.
Just,
what is going on
yeah,
over here?
Yeah.
I mean, goosebumps.
Yeah,
like,
goosebumps.
that's such a good sound.
Yeah, that song is a great song. I still don't think it's the best rock song of all time. I have a very strong opinion on that. But I think the most excited I ever was to go buy a cassette tape was when Sacred Heart from Dio came out.
Okay.
And I was it's funny you don't watch Stranger Things. Your listeners will appreciate this, but I was really into Dungeons and Dragons, and we play D&D, and it's all about this fantasy, and Dio, he's like that wizard rock genius, right? He's like
Ronnie James.
Ronnie James.
Okay.
R.I.P.
How long's he been gone?
Oh, years.
Okay.
Yeah, but he always sang about mythical creatures and dragons and wizards and stuff like that.
I think that maybe essentially like cool, but I think it also maybe limited accessibility.
Totally.
In the same way that D&D kind of does.
Yeah, and cool in a way that Tenacious D can base their whole band off Dio
and just crush it,
yeah. Right? So, but nerdy and cool in a way. I mean, that's kind of where we live now. But Sacred Heart was just that song. I
cassette.
Remember, yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Cassette, yeah. At 14 with my Sony Walkman with the orange pads on the headphone, listening to Sacred Heart was like, whoa. It was so good.
Just recently, so our hub in Denver for this Colorado trip is my best buddy. We grew up a block apart in PV. He moved out there. You know, I was out there for like 7 years, and he came out, and I came back for a relationship, but whatever. God damn it! I'm having a brain fart. What were you saying?
Cool story.
Yeah. Tenacious D.
It was just Dio. I mean, and you know, then of course, you know, when you get an album, and of course, Sacred Heart's not their first album. You know, they had Last in Line before that, and then they had Holy Diver before that.
Okay.
And then before that, he was in a band called Rainbow.
Really?
And then before that, he was in a band called Elf. So, and then before that, he even did a stint in Black Sabbath. Ronnie James Dio did.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's another one of those. Dio's another one of those guys that shaped like rock. You know, like David Coverdale, a little bit more on the glamour. Like the girls really loved Whitesnake, and there was always this like you go to a Whitesnake concert and you could see just hot girls everywhere.
Yeah.
You went to a Dio concert.
A lot of dudes.
There were no girls anywhere, but
lot of wallet
it was
chains.
it was about the rock, man, and it was. So they were influential, but in different ways. I think Whitesnake, if you even look at some kind of genres, it'll call it pop. You know, like
I bet it's been labeled hair metal and
butt rock,
glam.
hair rock,
Yeah.
glam rock, all that kind of stuff. Which would lead me to like the next band that I think it's on my list, and that's Guns N' Roses. I mean, to me, I think that Guns N' Roses is probably the best rock band of all time.
Interesting. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go chronologically just because I'm a nerd, and
let's do it. Tantalize the listeners with what's to come.
I was really excited. I was surprised that you picked the Doors record, but I was really excited because I feel like not only, you know, occasionally in here, but obviously more often in life, they come up, but they only kind of just come up, and then they, you know, and it's just perpetual, and it's it's been a curiosity for me. I didn't do a deep dive around the time that you're really getting into Dio and that sort of stuff, but I definitely developed an awareness that the three musicians are really fucking tight and really, you know, obviously, you know, Jim's the face and he's the wild card and all that kind of put the whole thing on the map, but without them, that outfit is shit. I mean,
no doubt.
Anyway,
Jim's all the drama. Jim
right.
is the drama that sells the tickets.
So 1970.
Yep.
Morrison Hotel.
Yeah. Very specific
Fifth-
song in there.
5th of 9 records.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. And as I dug a little deeper, so this one is February 9th of 70. Soft Parade was in 69. It was their 4th. And it was like orchestrated with horns and strings. And they were, it was the most expensive to date for them to put out. And he had his infamous Florida in March of 69. He gets arrested for, I think, for public intoxication. Shows canceled. 25 gigs are pulled off the books, and then their shit got kind of like blackballed from radio play. So they went this slightly different direction from their first 3 records, and put a ton of time and money into it, and then it virtually got no exposure. So I'm this.
I didn't know all this.
Well,
but
I just learned it.
Sure.
Kind of brushing up for the purpose of this conversation. So they're frustrated. They go back in and they make Morrison Hotel, which side A is Morrison Hotel and side B is Hard Rock Cafe. Fascinating. And it's fucking gorgeous. Like, I over the years have definitely waved the anti-greatest hits flag, because you gotta listen to the record that they went in the studio to make as an outfit, and that's really where the art form, whatever. And I randomly bought a Doors album, and I didn't love it. And then I was like, and I reluctantly bought Greatest Hits. And I was like, yeah, that's what I was looking for. But this is so super good. And it has, like, I had a lot of ups and downs, because I was like, I love Peace Frog. I've always loved Peace Frog. I've always felt it to be a very largely underrepresented and underrated Doors tune.
Sure.
Like, I don't think it could even touch some of the big ones that have gotten historically all of the radio play.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I ever remember but once or twice hearing it on the radio, and that was, who knows how that happened.
Sure.
But it's not from that session. It's from the session from their 3rd record.
I did not.
So I was
know
like, Peace Rock. Oh, well, that's weird. Anyway, and then I was like, I really liked Land Ho, Indian Summer from their self-titled sessions. So it's interesting. Like, they along the way they've recorded 2 really good songs and didn't put them on the record at the time that they were recording for. So
well, you know how it was done back then. It wasn't their decision on what songs went onto the record.
That's the thing, is that if you're follow the trail of breadcrumbs, the story I think most often goes, you're the garage band that hopes to get local gigs, and eventually you get noticed, and eventually somebody is ponying up for you guys to go into the studio, and you better not have any fights, and somebody better not get wasted and not show up, and no drama, don't burn the place down, and also take exactly the amount of time we're paying for. Don't go over. And then also 10 songs that are 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and we're going to tell you which and what the order is. I don't think that happened for everybody. I think some bands got to choose their track listing and track sequence.
You mentioned that they got blackballed around that time. So, maybe when they went into that studio to make that album, they're trying to kind of renew their base or their fanship.
The effort was, we're going to go back blues.
Yeah, that's right. That's
so during the sessions, I just copied and pasted this quote, so I don't have her first name, but his girlfriend at the time, her last name is Corson.
Yeah.
Okay. had a violent argument after she drank his bottle of liquor so he could not drink it, with engineer Bruce Botnick recalling. So here were the two of them completely out of their minds and crying. He started shaking her violently. I think he was putting me on. She was crying out of control, telling him he shouldn't drink anymore, and that's why she drank it. And I'm cleaning up, and I said, hey, man, it's pretty late. And he looked up, stopped shaking her, said, yeah, right, hugged her, and they walked out arm in arm. So just before we started rolling, we were, we were kind of, I think, dancing around the idea of, toxic relationships and,
alcohol fueled.
But cover art, there's a Morrison Hotel
storefront.
They were not allowed to take a picture, so they waited until the clerk got called, and they ran in and got a picture. And the back cover art is a Hard Rock Cafe that's right down the street.
Yeah, okay.
And they that ended up being a future, this filming spot for a good portion of Beat It.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
So got a couple quotes. Dave Marsh, editor of Cream, called the album the most horrifying rock and roll I've ever heard. When they're good, they're simply unbeatable. I know this is the best record I've listened to so far. Rock Magazine called it without any doubt their ballsiest and yet best album to date. A lot of praise. But the whole point being, I feel like, their presence was like a stamp, and the result of the stamp is this split or this dichotomy where you have non-fans essentially just kind of being like, whatever. I mean, Jim Morrison, I saw the movie.
Yeah.
And then
I like Break On Through.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then fans that know, like, I mean, John Densmore, Robbie Krieger, Ray Manzarek. I mean, and Morrison was just to me, he's kind of whatever.
Well, he's the show, and the band is the production. You know what I mean? Jim Morrison's the show, but the show can't go on without the production.
Yeah.
And nobody to this day, nobody has made a keyboard sound
like Ray Manzarek,
the way that Ray made that sound. I mean, it was like he could, like it didn't. You listen to keyboards now, 80s, 90s, and it all just sounds synthy, poppy. His was like a haunting kind of, like, I don't know. It got to you when you listen to it, and then some of the scales that he played on that were just, I don't know. They were right. Like they'd flip something, and it's almost like his keyboards caused that psychedelic trance to happen. You didn't necessarily need the drugs, but I don't think.
But if you had them,
it would be even better. But I think that I don't think there's no sound. Let's put it this way. There's no one's ever sounded like the Doors.
Nope. No. And maybe because we are so close in age, and I think kind of had a somewhat similar pockets of, adolescence and upbringing and whatnot. I was a huge Family Ties.
Family Ties, sure.
You remember the episode?
I was a fan of that show. I mean, Alex P. Keaton, I definitely wanted to be him. But no, I don't remember that episode.
This was, I stand by this with zero official backing, but I believe it in my heart. There was an episode, and Alex's best friend killed himself. And Light My Fire was their jam together. And the whole episode, I mean, it made it feel much, much longer than 30 minutes, was Alex sort of processing the loss and the grief, and Light My Fire is in it almost. I mean, there's like flames against black backdrop, and Michael J. Fox, he's singing, and I mean, kidding. It's wild.
It is wild.
It's definitely worth a YouTube search or a Google search.
It's pretty out of character for Alex P. Keaton.
Well, but I don't. I mean, that was the heyday of sitcoms.
Yeah, sure.
And it was sort of like the Different Strokes episode where they got molested by the. You remember?
Yes,
Dudley,
I do.
And
yeah.
But just really, like, not only this idea of death getting stage time, but suicide.
It's interesting. It's interesting you bring that up, because there's so many There's so many sitcoms that, tonight on a very special Blossom. You know what I mean? There are so many, so many sitcoms that took it upon themselves to like teach kids like these weird, like, or not weird, but these uncomfortable, sex, getting pregnant, suicide, molestation, sexual abuse.
Well,
all that.
what's interesting about it is that you sort of had the ABC after school special kind of, we got this, wrapped up,
we're latchkey kids, of course. What else are we going to do? We don't have any parents home, so we got to get taught by something.
Primetime sitcom doesn't need to take one of their 30-minute episodes and address suicide or molest, because the after school specials, that's their wheelhouse. But they did it anyway, and it was probably a gamble, but I think it paid off. I mean, it resonated with me.
How cringy is the Cosby Show nowadays, right?
I can't say I've watched it in quite some time.
Dr. Huxtable, you dog.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I want to get to the next two, but I got to pee again real quick.
Yep, let's do it. I got it too. Dueling Swords.
All right, so one last thing about the Doors. The first place I went was, how many studio albums did they put out? And I saw 9. I was like, bullshit. Fascinating to me is that this being 5, LA Woman was 6, and that's the one that gets all the notoriety. That was it. Jim was done. That was the last one they did together. Mm-hmm. The 3 of them put out 2 records after he was dead, which I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Other Voices in 71 and Full Circle in 72. And then they went and did their own thing, got back together and recorded a record around some spoken word poetry that he had previously recorded, which was called American Prayer in 78. Didn't know any
I
of
didn't know
that.
about that one, yeah.
So we super good record though. I'm really glad that Morrison Hotel is going to be in my mix now. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I grew up to that record.
Wow. It's so good.
Yeah.
So we go from 69 to 87 and Appetite for Destruction virtually, kind of changed the face of rock, or made it more accessible. I don't know.
I have some opinions on that. I think that Guns N' Roses took rock back to the garage.
Okay.
We went through the 60s and 70s with Zeppelin and Aerosmith and all these big bands that had a lot of money and they had a lot of notoriety, and they were getting the big arenas, and they were, as anything, they add more to it. And if you start listening to those early 80s records from like Aerosmith and some of those other big bands, they feel produced.
Well, Aerosmith put out like 5 or 6 really, really, really amazing records, and then they had their Toxic Twins like collapse on stage, blah blah blah, and they put out absolute garbage. And then they went to somebody went to rehab, and they put out a record in like 86 called Done with Mirrors. It is so bad, so bad.
So to me, like Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, they kind of added a little punk into rock, and they made it gritty, and they made it more outlaw. Forget about the drugs. You really felt like you were going to get your ass kicked. The video to Welcome to the Jungle scared me a little bit. I was like, ugh, fuck. You feel like,
are those hookers? What's going on?
You feel like if you ran into Slash or Duff or Axl, they may kick your ass.
Yeah.
They may just kick your ass.
And take your wallet.
And your girlfriend and whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just, I didn't necessarily feel that way about Whitesnake.
Sure.
Whitesnake was a produced band. I think they were great, and I think they did a lot of.
They'll give you some drugs and get you laid.
They'll get you laid because all the girls want to hang out with them, but they're not the bad boys. The bad boys.
They had cool outfits.
They didn't have. They had a lot of money. Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue, in my opinion, were the badasses of
the pioneers of badassery.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So how did that album land in your lap? How did it get into your space? Was it MTV? Was it the radio? Did you?
It was definitely MTV was a
Okay.
huge influence for everything for me. I mean, I found Black Sabbath because I wanted to know what's that riff at the beginning of MTV. Dun,
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 dun.
It's War Pigs from Black Sabbath.
Oh, I was
And
thinking
there's
of like the comeback from commercial. Dun, dun, dun,
No,
dun, 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 dun.
the one where they have the guy, the Moon Man, putting the flag in, and it's
That's War Pigs.
yeah. There's a little riff in there that's right in the center. Of,
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so you gotta listen to that song. But so MTV ruled everything. I mean, I didn't even listen to the radio from 1984 to 1990. What are you going to learn on the radio that you're not going to learn
Right.
from MTV? So, so Guns N' Roses, "Sweet Child of Mine,"
That riff, dude.
which I happen to think is the best song in rock and roll ever. It has,
It isn't that without that riff, though.
well, it doesn't matter. It has it. So,
Yeah.
so
Touche.
right. I just think whether you think it's overplayed or you think it's not quite as hard as it should be or it's not soft enough, "Sweet Child of Mine" to me is everything a rock song should be.
Do you like Sheryl Crow's version? It's a serious question.
I don't even like Sheryl Crow.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Thanks for coming. Okay, so just a handful of days before you gave me your records, high school buddies text thread. I don't know how it came up, but Appetite came up, and somebody said, when it comes to track listing, it's the best of all time because you don't ever skip any tracks on that record.
You don't skip a track.
I disagree. I think there's two on there that didn't really do much for me, and now I don't remember what they were. But and granted, that came out. I was freshly inundated with the Led Zeppelin discography and the Aerosmith discography, so I did sit with that record and listen to it front to back many times with the liner notes open. Yeah. And I know every song. I know the album really well, but there's just not every one is A+ to me. I think for me the big surprise about that record was how good some of the non-hit tracks were, like Mr. Brownstone.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
fucking
Mr. Brownstone's probably one of the best
what
songs
is
too.
fucking that just that jigga sound.
Just-
like
I mean, Slash. Dude, Slash is
I
incredible.
get up around 7, get out of bed around 9. And it's saying,
a real motherfucker.
yeah, and
Yeah,
like,
I know.
oh my God, he said motherfucker, What about, we could, if we had the luxury of time, we could spend a lot of it talking about that record.
Yeah.
What about Guns N' Roses stuff after Appetite for you?
I mean, there's some standout songs. I mean, Civil War is a fantastic song. Use Your Illusions 1 and 2 are both.
You like both of them in
both
their entirety?
great. Not in their entirety, but there's just there are winners from each.
100%. What about Lies?
Yeah, I think I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan. I'm trying to think on Lies. I think Duff McKagan has his song. Wouldn't it? Isn't it fun?
Okay.
I believe that's Lies.
The only thing I still have it, but the only thing I can recall is Patience.
Yeah.
Which
Great song.
You want to talk about the pioneers of badassery that also kind of rewrote the book on the ballad.
They did
with that track.
I mean, and to redo the Beatles the way they did.
Yep.
Live and Die. I mean, that was
that was so good.
Huge. Don't Cry, great song. And I think Axl, he's another front man. Like, I think as influential, if not a little bit more than Jim Morrison in his band's performance. I mean, they aren't that great without Axl. And the proof was Velvet Revolver. But Velvet Revolver was great.
For the uninformed,
That's the super group with Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. Lead vocaling was with Slash and Duff McKagan and playing guitar. I forget who the drummer is on that. They had some good songs. They They just weren't Axl.
Right.
You know, and Axl took this cringy persona, this redneck cringy persona, and made it really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And
it came with a fucking wagon full of pussy. I mean,
we're oddly
Stephanie
enough,
Seymour.
oddly enough, that goofy looking red haired kid from LA that dressed like he was from Kentucky pulls the biggest supermodels of all time. And yes, I've seen him recently.
Have you seen the meme?
No.
There's a meme where a girl on Twitter, I think it is puts a picture of like late 80s Axl and is like, what would it take to find a man like this and make him mine? And actually Axl is like, he just says, hey, but it's a current picture, and she's like, beat it, nerd, or get lost. And he's like, no, it's me. And she's like, I said get out of here. He's like, that's legitimately me. So what did you get? Did you Izzy Stradlin and the Juju Hounds? Did you ever get into that record?
No.
I liked it. Shuffle It All was the big track for me that stood out. But I mean, did you Spaghetti Incident? Chinese,
kind of. I got lost on Spaghetti Incident. You know.
Okay.
I think 1992 when Terminator came out, Judgment Day. That, you know, that you could be mine. Mm-hmm. Great song.
Yeah.
I mean, very like, for me, nostalgic, because I remember watching that movie in the theaters and just that.
Talk about
riff.
Line.
Yeah. That drum line when it's going and it's just like
picture like China sets shaking
and I can see Arnold Schwarzenegger like on his motorcycle, you know.
There you go.
So very, very cool. That's a good throwback for me. But Spaghetti Incident, I started to get lost. You know, and that happened even with like Motley Crue when they started putting out these later albums. I was like, after Dr. Feelgood, it was kind of like, yeah, right. You know, you kind of had your prime, and that was really, really great. But
I don't know if I knew and forgot or learned it for the first time. They formed in '85, and Tracy Guns from LA Guns was the guitar player. Slash wasn't around yet. Also, and his given last name is something, you know, like Burns or Watt or something like that, but his actual first name is Tracy with a Y, and he changed it to Tracy with two I's. Tracy, I'm like, you're a fucking like rock star, and you go Tracy with two I's. Okay,
interesting.
So if you look at 85 to current, 28 lineup changes.
Yeah.
And Axl is listed as lead vocals for all of those, and it says clearly that he's always been I was like, didn't the dude from like Extreme or somebody fucking, wasn't somebody in there for a second?
I think that there
I'm
was
confused. I think
there may have been a tour where they took somebody else on tour,
Yeah.
which obviously would bomb. I mean, why would somebody go on the road without the show, you know?
Exactly. So 69, 87, 2003.
There's a big jump.
Big jump. So
there's a reason for that.
And it's totally cool. But like I said, I was on the road listening to Morrison Hotel and just all right. And then I'm like, I'm not really sure if I've ever listened to Deftones before, but I think because of you get 3 of the 4 initial letters in the band with Daft Punk, that I just like looped them together, and I was like, we're gonna get a little
interesting.
And then the first track I was like, oh my god, I have never listened to these guys before. Super fucking aggressive, and like I made it through 3 tracks, and I was like, I'm gonna have to pause and come back, and so I did it coming home.
Did you get to Passenger?
I listened to the whole rest of the album, and it is not for me.
Yeah.
But that's totally okay, because we've talked about plenty of records on here that are not for me, and
right.
Man, also 9 records, and this is somewhere in the middle-ish.
I guess it's their third or fourth studio album. You know, they had their breakout. I think it was their second album. Their sophomore album was their big breakout, and that was mid-90s, I think.
Okay.
And that was the super hard 7 Words, I think, was the big song from them. And it's a mosh pit song. Did
you used to get into pits?
Yeah.
Did you ever get bloodied?
Oh yeah.
And you'd go back for more?
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, it was different back then.
Well,
I wouldn't do it now.
I mean,
but this particular album spoke to me because I think in the early 2000s when this came out, rock was a joke.
it was like wasteland, vapid,
joke.
Squeezing every cactus you can for a drop
I mean,
of water.
it was really bad, and these guys stood out to me because I really like garage style raw rock records, like energy and feedback, and it's not overproduced. These guys are just in it, and they're pushing hard, and they want their sound to carry hard, and they want to fuck you up with their songs. And that's Deftones to me. They're relentless. They are the kind of guy that will keep punching you when you're down. I mean, they will go at you. Like, their songs have all kind of this sexual energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes you got to peel away a couple layers to see that that's what it is, though.
Yeah.
I think
like Passenger is about sex in a car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Featuring
Maynard.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then
Maynard from Tool, Keenan
Yep.
James. It's an interesting story on that, on why he's even on that record.
Well, they were pretty heavily influenced by Tool, were they not?
Well, they both of them came out around the same time.
Yeah.
And I think they appreciated each other. I think if you listen to the Deftones talk about Tool, they describe them as mathematical geniuses, and in a way that their music isn't just off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's an equation to every riff.
Yeah.
And it's more of when you go and you don't go and jam with Tool. Tool figures out exactly what they're going to do, and they play it perfectly the first time because it's just how their mind works.
Yeah.
And he collabed with Maynard on this track because he was having a hard time coming up with a feel for it. And they were collabing, I think, on the album, and he brought him into the studio, and they were playing this song, and he starts with that riff for Passenger, and it's the tone of it's a little thin. I think it's not as heavy, and it's distorted, but it's still on the lighter side, in my opinion. And he said that Maynard just started singing to it.
Nice.
And they all kind of just stopped and was like, okay, I guess
That's happening.
that's happening right now. And that's, wow. So they didn't recruit him for the track. They tried to put their own lyrics to it and make it solely their own. And they couldn't get Maynard's lyrics and Maynard's voice out of their head.
I bet.
So they invited him back to do that track, and talk about an under-recognized, underplayed gem of a song. Every Tool fan out there should go listen to Passenger by Deftones, because
Sure.
It is very much a Tool song in the way that Maynard does it. And that album also has Digital Bath on it, which is just futuristic and just
so they took post-hardcore, trip-hop, shoegaze, progressive rock, and post-rock, incorporated into their alternative metal sound.
Ugh, what?
That's the lasso. That's the genre description for the approach to this album. That's somebody else's words. Mm-hmm. What Moreno said was that this was the first time that he wrote songs that weren't about him. He said, I tried to take myself completely out, and he was like fabricating stories, which is not only cool, but I think, probably pretty challenging.
Yeah.
To, forget about all of your life and everything. Like, just let's make some shit up, but make it malleable to fit the music thing that we're doing. Really cool. Other guest vocalist on that record, Scott Weiland.
Oh yeah.
from RX is prescription, right?
That's right.
RX Queen, whatever.
Drug queen.
Oh, that's what it means?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. 4 months in the studio to get this thing, and a lot of it was they were writing. They didn't show up with shit written, and they were just trying to record. They were writing. Best-selling Deftones record to date.
Yeah.
When I finally was like, okay, this is a change in the House of Flies.
There you go.
And then I got home and finished looking stuff. I was like, oh, this is the hit.
Big hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, and it made sense to me because I feel like a lot of the rest of the record is not very accessible. Mm-hmm. I mean, you
have to love the genre.
Well,
I think you have to love the genre.
I tell you that getting through the first 3 tracks, I had to turn it off for a reason, and then when I put it back on today, I could feel that come up again. And you know what exactly to a T the feeling is that feeling that we talked about before we started rolling of Stonewall versus Pursue. And
strikes a chord in you.
It's all of it. The screaming, and it's not. I've always been anti like power chord screaming, kind of that flavor of punk or whatever you want to call it, because it doesn't. To me, it feels like a thing that a lot of people could just kind of pick up and do, even if you only know 4 chords on a plugged in guitar. And so it's never really felt like, artistic and creative and unique and blah, blah, blah. But I learned listening to this that's really what it is. It's
energy. Yeah.
It's that. So if I were to try and sing along with that, I would feel my vocal cords, not appreciating it. A lot of stuff in my gut that would start to bubble up. That is that very feeling of if you don't stop trying to pick a fight with me, I'm going to give you a fat lip kind of. And I can't sit with that energy. It doesn't steer me in the direction of euphoria where I want to go, yeah, or, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but to each his own, obviously. So White Pony is street for cocaine. Have you ever been a fan of that stuff?
I like anybody growing up in the 90s and 80s. I've tried the basics. Tried cocaine.
Yeah. And
I'm trying to.
Did you enjoy it, or like?
I think I'm a pretty high energy guy in general,
and
so I think cocaine was a little dangerous for me. It wasn't my drug of choice. My drug of choice would back in the 90s when I would just keep that in mind because things were different back in the 90s when it came to drugs. It was MDMA, which ecstasy. Ooh. And
Rogan's a huge fan of.
Yeah, and marijuana. I mean, those were really the only things I did. I mean, if I was going out to a club or if I was going out where I wanted to meet girls, and ecstasy was kind of that would break down every single wall that I had, and it would just be like, hey, you're cute.
Hello.
Let's hug. Do you have some water or gum? Let's hug. And then, coming down from that high, it's easy to break out a J and sit down on the couch.
Sure.
Yeah. So really, that's kind of the extent of what I've ever dabbled in.
I've got a few quotes. Billboard, the band's continuous inclination toward a bludgeoning, experimental sonic attack, and Moreno's violent, impressionistic lyrics made the album a tough pill to swallow for most listeners.
Interesting.
BBC Music, this is a difficult album. Now I cherry-picked that phrase out of a larger thing because it fit with the first one. But then Clash Magazine said the album changed everything, not just for Deftones, but for metal as a whole.
And that's what I think about
that. They won a Grammy for Elite as best metal performance in 2001. And then they just fucking kept going, man.
They just released an album in 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did they wind up in your lap?
I kind of, I don't know if you know this. I was in a band right out of high school. I'm a guitar player.
Still?
No.
Okay. Do you own one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Multiple.
Sure.
But haven't had the time to play.
Yeah, no.
And I say that because I'd be respectful to people that play the guitar.
Yeah.
because I know how hard it is. And
It's a discipline.
Yeah, it is a discipline. And if you don't use it, you lose it for sure.
It's like a foreign language or
it is not like riding a bike. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
I pick it up from time to time, and working on Master of Puppets right now just to kind of re-engage because I got re-interested in that. But
once a week, more than once a week, or it's random?
Lately more than once a week. But I go through. I'm hot and cold with it, because of what I do for a living, and that's just the way it is. But
sure.
In 1994, I formed a band called Deep Shag, and we were all original, very heavily influenced by Tool, and really, I was lead guitarist, lead vocalist.
No way you can play and sing at the same time.
It's really tough.
Yeah,
and we played a couple of really parties and a couple of shows, and
sure.
Then some of those members decided to leave, and then I got some.
Are you still in Utah?
Yeah, still in Utah. And then I formed another band about 1996, which is the one we went the furthest with, and that was called Mr. Roper.
Like Three's Company?
Yes. And I tell you, if you've ever been in a band, or if anybody listening's ever been in the band, I think the hardest thing to do is pick a band name. It's got to be the hardest thing to do. And we would go round and round about band names all the time. And we settled on I wanted Furley Roper. I wanted Furley Roper. People didn't like the Furley, so we settled on Mr. Roper. And we were a 5-piece band. I was not vocals on this one as backup vocals in this band. We had a singer actually. We had a studio we practiced in. It was a place called Downtown Music. We rented this warehouse space that we had all our equipment. It was like we were playing a show. Every practice we were like playing a show. And we got really good. And we started playing at some of the premier bars in Salt Lake City, and we started, making some money.
Paid gigs, nice.
Paid gigs. We were fortunate to open in a big festival where Everclear and Live played, and we got to meet those guys, and we're kind of like they were showcasing some local bands, some of the better local bands. We were part of that. So I was a guitarist, and I'm not a great guitarist.
Okay.
So back to what you were saying, I love power chords because they sound good and they're full energy.
Mm-hmm.
And our sound was a little bit of kind of Tool meets Deftones, maybe meets Stone Temple Pilots. And I say that because we had a really great bass player. Stone Temple Pilots had a fantastic bass player.
Okay.
Yeah. He was walking those frets. If you listen to a Stone Temple Pilots song, if you listen to the Purple album, he's walking the frets in every song. I mean, he's really great.
Nice.
And our bass player was really influenced by him, and it was so we kind of had this little bit of funk, but then we had this post-hardcore kind of sound, and we didn't have a great singer. He wasn't. His voice wasn't very melodic, so he would resort to more of the gruff kind of.
Sure. And
so we just kind of had this sound, and then, we were looking for inspiration and like sound and Deftones. Like when we're going to concerts and we're seeing the people that we're seeing, Deftones open. What did they open for? It wasn't Tool. It was. I don't remember who it was for. Maybe it was. I don't think it was Candlebox. I can't remember who they opened for, but they opened for somebody that was fairly big. And I remember we'd go to shows as a band. And
interesting.
And I remember, and it was interesting because I'd watch the guitar players and the singer would watch the singer. We'd all kind of take away. And we were just.
You guys are studying.
Yeah, we're studying and we're learning. And Deftones really we were like, oh, those guys are fucking cool.
Yeah, man.
They were just cool.
Did they land in your lap because you were in a band, or did somebody turn you on to them, or?
Nobody turned us on to them. We were there to see. It was Rage Against the Machine. It was Rage Against the Machine. We were there to see Rage Against the Machine, and Deftones open for them.
Whoa. Probably a pit or two at that show.
That's a big show.
Yeah.
And then Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. I mean, one of the best guitarists ever, and I think for a totally different reason than Slash. I think Tom Morello's got this funk blues. He can put a riff together and make you pull something out of his ass, right? But Deftones spoke to me because I love that. Like I said earlier, I love that garage sound,
Sure.
like raw garage sound, and that full energy. I mean, I listen to Deftones in the car. I listen to them when I work out, and
that feels safer than in the car.
there's another album, Koi no Yokan, which is Japanese for something. I can't remember that Deftones has. It's another one of my really regular playlists. I think it was 2012 that came out. But Deftones just, it has like, to me, it's funny you said it's not approachable, because to me, it's the most approachable.
I said it's less accessible.
Accessible, excuse me. But for me, it's like the most approachable.
Which means you're taking all of the music listeners and you've lumped them in, and how many, what percentage of that pie can and will gravitate towards that. A lot of people won't.
No,
right?
Certainly. If it's in the car, and if it's in the car and my girlfriend gets in and she's like, really? Do we have to listen to it? I'm like, no, we'll put on what you want to listen to. But
we'll turn it to the Fun Hater channel.
I'm a big Chevelle fan. I love Chevelle. Deftones, definitely. Metallica. You're seeing a pattern here of these big power bands.
Yeah.
Tool. I'm a Tool fan to a point. I like Tool, but to me, Tool's not as accessible as Deftones.
Well, I think you get back into all that calculated and numbers things, and to me, is the way it goes.
It's just not a performance.
Yeah.
It's okay. And one of the things that drives me nuts about Tool is I want them to keep going. Whether it's
they ripcord,
whether it's like whether it's a chorus, like, can I get another round of that chorus? That was so good. Or can I do it? They leave you like, what happened? But I mean, there's a lot of Tool lovers out there.
Oh man, a lot.
And I think they're a great band. Don't get me wrong.
So you said something. When I mentioned 69, 87, 03, you're like, there's a reason for that. So did you select this album deliberately?
So because I think in the 90s, what are you going to do in the 90s? Who are you going to pick in the 90s?
You got grunge exploding, you got the jam band scene exploding.
Which neither one I really appreciate.
Of course.
Right? I mean, so if you look at like the albums, like I'm a rock fan, but I'm not a grunge fan.
Sure.
And then jam bands, I'm not a fan.
Right. No.
So in the 90s, when electronic music started to hit, that spoke to me. That was interesting because, and I'm not the only metalhead that's happened to, because I've got another friend of mine is a total metalhead. But when the electronic music came out with the BPMs of like 130 beats a minute and all this like layering going on, he gravitated to it as well.
I said the deuce at the top of the episode because this is 22. 21 is a local drummer in a couple different bands, and the electronic thing came up, and I was like, have you ever listened to blah 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 and blah blah? And he's like, no. So I made a list of things. I sent him some things, and one of the albums that I sent him is a record from 1996. And before I sent it to him, I used to listen to it a lot in college. I just kind of ran through all the tracks again. And one of my favorite things about doing this is, I love the whole thing, but I will pick, like, the purpose is for us to talk about your music. But I will pick, intro and outro audio for each episode. And it's totally random how I wind up landing. I thought I had it figured out, but then it just kept surprising me. And it sucks because a lot of stuff gets copyright claimed by YouTube.
Sure.
So if this were ever to be something that was monetizable, all of the episodes that have copyright claims, I get none of it. Mm-hmm. And I keep both to 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. So, and it's crazy because a lot of these episodes are like 3.5, 4 hours long. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving let's just call it 3 hours of original content, and it's bookended by 10 seconds and 10 seconds, and that gets, the algorithm finds it and says nope. But so I'm running through this record from 1996, and I hit a couple tracks in particular, and boom, I was like, I'm using that for Christian Joseph. So it's weird that you like bring up 90s electronic, and for some reason, I don't know if it's just because it was on the brain that you were next and I had you on the books or what, but I was like, oh, that's a really good fit.
Interesting.
Anyway, it'll be in October. It'll be 10 years that I've been here, and there were different Heirloom wasn't there, and different neighbors, but 2 doors down had just had their 3rd boy, and we were getting ready to have our 2nd kid, and kind of this whole like, oh my God, how do you do it? And the mom famously to us said, oh, you haven't figured it out yet? It's just a lower level of expectations. Yeah, that's the only way. And they're high school sweethearts, and blonde as the day is long. So they're 2 boys, super blonde. And my daughter fell in love with them and started calling them the neighbor boys. And so, but at first they're carrying this
It's a great band name, by the way.
That's where I'm going with this. God damn it. So they're carrying this baby, and eventually this baby, as babies are wont to do, becomes a toddler who has unique and identifiable features. And eventually we're like, oh, the baby's name is Jacob. And Adeline is just, every time she sees, she's just smitten with the neighbor boys. And eventually I said something about, I'm telling a story or whatever, and she's within earshot, and I'm like, they have 3. And she's like, what do you mean they have 3? I'm like, well, they have their 2 older, and then they have Jacob. And, so in essence, Jacob is a neighbor boy. And she goes, no, he is not. It's Jacob and the Neighbor Boys. And I was like, that's the best band name I've ever heard in my life.
Jacob and the Neighbor Boys.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. We got to get you out of here. But this was really fun. Thank you for the
great
time. If you want to plug anything or tell people to visit a certain... No?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if they know my background, but I own 2 restaurants in Kansas City, and that's kind of why we referenced some of the things we referenced.
Right. Are those restaurants visible online?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Do you want to sit? Is there a reason folks should go to one versus the other, or?
Yeah, so it's Plate Restaurant. There's one in Brookside, Kansas City, Missouri. There's one in Leawood, Kansas. And if you want to visit us for lunch, come out to Leawood, and that's open for lunch 6 days a week. But it's largely the same menu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If there are batch recipes that exist at both, are both sticking to them, or are they allowed a little bit of?
That's the challenge.
Oh,
so
man.
Consistency is the hardest thing when you duplicate. And I think I have the right chefs in place, and I think we're 95% there. But there are personal touches at each place by the chefs that operate each place. And
now, I don't get a good look often, but occasionally I'll get a good look at Brookside's outdoor dining, and the feel that I get is that was a good call.
Yeah.
Outdoor dining.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, forget about COVID.
No, but it just in general, it's a great patio. It's shaded. It's north facing.
Is there outdoor dining at Leawood?
There is.
Okay.
There is,
and people love some outdoor dining in
people
that neck
love
of the
to
woods.
sit. Yep, they love to sit outside.
Last thing is, I remember that you were really, really excited about this new online reservation company when you were opening Brookside that was sort of doing things different than your token number 1 and number 2. Did that pan out to be?
Yeah, unfortunately, no.
Oh,
okay.
We
went with number 1, which was Open Table. We went with those guys.
There were a couple of reasons that you had dog-eared for why Open Table wasn't the bee's knees.
Yeah.
But did those kind of just not become an issue for you anymore, or?
Well, I think volume cures everything, and so if you've got the right revenue, you can pretty much do what you want. For us, I think starting out early on, Open Table was a hard percentage of sales to wrap our heads around per diner.
Meaning the cut they're taking?
Yeah,
okay.
we pay per diner, and so the other company was really created to offset that and to really recruit, but they don't have the same marketing outreach that Open Table does. So it's, sure, you're saving money, but you're not getting as many diners. So it's kind of, one of those things.
Did you learn that pretty early on and jump ship, or did
fairly early.
Okay.
I think we tried the the other competitor there for about 4 or 5 months, and we just realized we should be busier than this, and we were right.
So when you made the switch, was it pretty quickly visible?
I mean, we increased by 20% probably right off the bat, and then we kept increasing.
Yikes.
So yeah. But.
So open table to make a reservation for Plate Leawood or Plate Brookside. Correct. I'm assuming there's some kind of social media presence where folks can see stuff.
You can find us on Instagram, plate.kc, and find us on
do you have a person that's handling all
that?
We
do.
Okay.
Anna Petro handles that for us.
Not for free, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you figured out which of the restaurant expenses? What are the free things in the world of restaurant touring? Which ones are they? I can't remember.
I hope this is free.
It is, but it's not.
But there's that being in the restaurant business it's probably one of the most unforgiving businesses you can be in. I mean, it is nonstop.
Yeah.
But I love it, and I'm passionate about it, and we still want to grow. So,
good things on the horizon, right?
Good things on the horizon. If things keep going the way they're going, we'd like to open another one, possibly Lee Summit. We're really thinking about going out of state, regionally, but, expanding our reach out a little bit and seeing what happens. So,
cool. Well, we got to get you into one of those buildings, if not both of them, as soon as we're done here. So thanks again for the time. At some point, I might wind up at a spot where there's some folks that have done an episode and we've talked some albums, but maybe I might like to have them back to talk about one or two more. So
I'd love it.
I'd love to. Really appreciate you committing and being here, and it's all about getting buns in the chair. So
man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Talk to you.
All right.